They don't steal your money, not first. They don't take your time, not directly. They come for your energy, quietly, systematically, and without your consent. You feel it every morning, that weight in your chest before the day even begins. The sense that something, somewhere, is draining you, not in a supernatural sense, but in a psychological, societal, mechanical way, as if the world has been programmed to exhaust you before you even get the chance to be alive. Modern life is not broken. It's working exactly as intended, a system designed not to empower, but to extract. You are not just a worker. You are a battery. You are not just a consumer. You are a source of attention, of compliance, of energy. And like any source of energy, you are surrounded by feeders, every headline engineered to provoke outrage, feeding on your focus, every algorithm optimized for addiction, feeding on your attention, every manipulative relationship, every narcissistic conversation, every public performance of happiness, a slow siphon on your will to live authentically. You're being farmed, not by demons in shadows, but by invisible hands of culture, media, and wounded individuals trapped in cycles of extraction themselves. We call them psychic vampires. But these aren't mythological creatures. They're real. They live in offices, in family structures, in social hierarchies. They look like you. They smile. They blend in. But they take. This is not a metaphor. This is a blueprint of how empires run on human energy, how attention became a currency, and how apathy is manufactured. Your soul-level vitality, the raw electric spark of your presence, is being harvested. And the most terrifying part? Most people never even notice the theft because they were born into it and told it was normal. You weren't born to perform. You were born to be. But somewhere along the way, you were trained to trade your presence for approval. Before you even knew who you were, someone else was already deciding it for you. In school, you were taught to sit still, follow rules, memorize facts, not to ask dangerous questions, not to feel deeply, not to wander too far into your own mind. In religion, guilt became a shadow tied to your desires. In families, love was often conditional, given when you obeyed, withheld when you didn't. And in culture, value was determined by performance, your grades, your body, your status, your smile. So you adapted. You built a mask, a persona, as Carl Jung called it, the social self you wear to survive. But masks are heavy, and pretending is exhausting. Every moment you spend performing who you think you should be is a moment disconnected from who you truly are. And that disconnection has a cost, not just psychological but energetic. You leak life force when you fake. You bleed subtle energy every time you betray your authentic voice just to fit in, to belong, to avoid rejection. And slowly, invisibly, the real you begins to fade, buried beneath layers of expectation. This is the hidden architecture of psychic fatigue. It's not just about overwork or too much screen time. It's about the silent war between your inner truth and the outer roles you've been forced to play. Carl Jung warned us, whatever we repress does not disappear. It retreats into the shadow. There, in the unconscious, your authentic self waits. But it doesn't wait quietly. It sabotages, it aches, it makes you restless. Because deep down, some part of you remembers who you were before the programming, and that part is starving. You weren't just taught to seek approval. You were taught to surrender energy to anyone who promised belonging. The world doesn't just condition your behavior, it conditions your attention to look outside, to compare, to strive, but never to turn inward and ask, who am I when I stop performing? Until you face that question, your energy will continue to drain, not from what you do, but from who you pretend to be. What you're experiencing is not a glitch. It's a legacy. The system didn't suddenly start draining your energy in the digital age. This pattern is ancient, refined, repackaged, and repeated under new names. Long before social media harvested your attention, kingdoms harvested your labor. Empires were built not just on land or gold, but on human energy, literal sweat, religious devotion, emotional submission. In ancient times, pharaohs and kings ruled with divine authority. They didn't just demand taxes, they demanded belief. The priests mediated between man and God, ensuring obedience through fear of eternal damnation. Your spiritual energy became fuel for hierarchies you could never touch. Then came feudalism. Lords owned the land, and peasants worked it, bound, not by chains, but by birth and duty. You were born into debt, born into service. Your energy was never your own. It was owed to someone higher in the pyramid. The Industrial Revolution didn't liberate people. It rebranded the extraction. Your time became a wage. Your body became a tool. You clocked in and out, but you never truly left the factory. Even your dreams started to echo the rhythm of the machine. This was not just physical control. It was psychological. Michel Foucault understood this. He called it disciplinary power. Not the power that beats you into submission, but the kind that teaches you to monitor yourself. Prisons, schools, hospitals, all designed to regulate bodies, to normalize obedience. Then came Edward Bernays, the father of public relations. He realized that people could be controlled not with violence, but with desire, through symbols, through mass persuasion. He weaponized Freud's psychoanalysis for corporations and governments. Suddenly, you didn't just work for the system, you wanted to. By the 21st century, the most effective control was no longer physical or institutional, it was emotional. It became immersive, invisible. Mark Fisher called it capitalist realism, the sense that there is no alternative, that the current system, with all its manipulations, is not only inevitable, but natural. Even as it extracts your energy, it convinces you that it's your only option, that this is freedom. Today, corporations don't just want your labor. They want your attention, your data, your preferences, your loyalty. Every click, every scroll, every second spent in the echo chamber of algorithmic seduction is another unit of energy given away. And what do you get in return? Comfort, distraction, dopamine loops, a simulation of control while your essence is siphoned in real time. This is not evolution, it's optimization, the same ancient machinery of control, now digitized, gamified, and personalized. And here's the brutal truth. The system doesn't care about your happiness. It doesn't care about your self-discovery, your peace, or your truth. It cares about your output, your energy, your compliance. It doesn't need you alive in the fullest sense. It just needs you functioning, consuming, reacting. You were never meant to thrive in this structure. You were meant to feed it. The predators have evolved. They no longer come with swords or chains. They come through your screen, through your inbox, through the people you trust. In this age, attention is the new oil, and every second of yours is up for auction. Let's start with the obvious parasite, the algorithm. Doom scrolling isn't just a habit, it's a neurological trap. Each swipe, each click, each headline engineered not for truth but for tension, for outrage. Because outrage is sticky, it activates your limbic system, your emotional core. And in that state of constant reaction, you're no longer sovereign. You're a node in someone else's network, an energy source for a digital empire you'll never see. Neuroscience confirms this. The dopamine feedback loop, anticipation, reward, frustration, repeat, is the same mechanism that drives addiction. But instead of drugs, you're addicted to distraction, to stimulation, to noise. And that overstimulation doesn't just exhaust your mind, it fragments your emotional body. You become scattered, uncentered, easily led. But it's not just machines that feed on you. People do too. Narcissistic personalities thrive by extracting emotional energy. They bait you into roles: caretaker, fixer, scapegoat. They guilt you, gaslight you, keep you in cycles of conflict and confusion, because your attention, even in pain, makes them feel powerful. They are the psychic parasites of modern intimacy, and many wear the mask of family, friend, or lover. Then there's the workplace, once sold as a path to dignity, now designed as a treadmill of productivity. Always on, never enough. Even rest becomes strategic, a means to perform. Better not to heal. You don't belong to yourself. You belong to deadlines, to metrics, to managers who treat your burnout like a scheduling conflict. And through it all, the media whispers fear. Every headline sharpened to pierce your nervous system. Terror, outrage, division, identity. Politics turned into psychological warfare. Because fear keeps you reactive. And a reactive mind can't reflect. It can only obey. These are emotional hooks, tiny points of entry into your consciousness. Once embedded, they reroute your energy, not toward growth or peace, but towards survival mode consumption. You're not thinking anymore, you're bracing, and that tension, that chronic alertness, feeds the system. So ask yourself, every app, every message, every person in your orbit, are they feeding you or feeding on you? The most disturbing truth isn't that your energy is being taken. It's that on some level, you're allowing it. Why don't we protect ourselves? Why don't we walk away from what depletes us? Because we've been trained, not just socially, but psychologically, to tolerate the drain. Trauma bonding is one of the most sinister psychological traps. It's what happens when your nervous system confuses intensity with intimacy. You grow up in chaos, and chaos becomes home. So even as an adult, you unconsciously seek out situations, relationships, and environments that replicate the energetic tension of your past. Because peace feels foreign, and familiarity, even when it's draining, feels safe. There's also the programming of self-abandonment. From a young age, you're taught to please others, to be polite, to stay in line, to suppress your needs for the comfort of those around you. So when your energy is being leached, your first instinct is to justify it, not to stop it. And deeper still, there's fear, not just fear of confrontation, but fear of isolation. What happens if you walk away from the toxic job, the draining relationship, the ideological cult disguised as culture? You risk being alone. And for the human psyche, especially one already wounded, loneliness can feel like death. So we stay, we adapt, we cope. This is where energy addiction begins. Many don't realize they're addicted, not to the source of their suffering, but to the feeling of it, to the adrenaline, to the drama, to the emotional volatility that makes them feel alive, even as it kills them slowly. It's a subconscious loop, and society rewards it. We develop a Stockholm syndrome with our systems. We defend the very structures that exploit us. We romanticize struggle. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. This isn't just personal, it's collective. Carl Jung called it the collective shadow, the shared psychological blind spots of humanity. As a species, we've normalized suffering. We've made burnout a virtue. We've elevated self-sacrifice to sainthood. And in doing so, we forgot how to say no, how to protect our own flame. Because a drained soul doesn't rebel, it doesn't question, it doesn't create. A drained soul obeys, silently, blindly, until there's nothing left to steal. In a world built to siphon your energy, saying no becomes an act of revolution. Energy is not just stamina. It's not just what fuels your to-do list or gets you through the day. It is your sovereignty, your ability to choose, to resist, to remain intact in the face of forces designed to fragment you. Without energy, you cannot think clearly. You cannot protect your boundaries. You cannot dream, create, or confront, which is why the system targets it first. But here's the shift. When you reclaim your energy, you reclaim your life. It starts with solitude, not loneliness. Solitude. Time alone with no performance, no screens, no noise. This is where your internal compass resets. This is where you stop reacting and start remembering. Then comes the most radical word in the English language. No, no to the guilt. No to the unnecessary meeting. No to the conversation that leaves you feeling smaller. No to the endless scrolling that numbs more than it informs. Saying no is not rejection, it's protection. You are not obligated to leak your energy for the comfort of others. You do not owe your presence to systems that exploit your absence. Of resistance, begin to unplug, not just from devices, but from dynamics. Notice the emotional leeches, the constant complainers, the passive-aggressives, the ones who always leave you drained, never nourished. You don't need to fight them, you only need to disengage. Starve the parasite, and it will retreat. Then, rebuild. Ritual is how you do it. Small, sacred actions that reinforce your energetic field. Journaling. To process what's yours and what's not. Silence. To reclaim your thoughts from the noise. Nature. To synchronize with rhythms older than civilization. Creation. Not for profit or praise, but as a form of remembrance. These are not luxuries. They are survival strategies. Because your energy is not just fuel, it is you. Your clarity, your will, your presence in the moment. Guard it like it's your last defense. Because in many ways, it is. You cannot be free without boundaries. In a world that rewards emotional exposure, constant availability, and limitless access, the most radical thing you can do is withhold. So even as boundaries are not walls to keep others out, they are structures that keep you intact, whole, unfragmented. To reclaim your energy, you must build an inner fortress, not of stone or steel, but of discernment. Psychological. Boundaries begin with awareness. You feel them before you define them, a tightness in your gut, a sudden fatigue after a conversation. That subtle shift when someone crosses a line they shouldn't have, but you ignore it because you were taught to. Taught that saying no is selfish, that protecting your peace is rude. That discomfort must be endured for the sake of belonging. But Carl Jung knew better. He called the path of becoming whole the individuation process, and that process demands separation. Not isolation, but sovereignty. The courage to stand apart from the collective noise and face your own depths, because only in solitude can you hear the signal beneath the static. Part of this work is what ancient traditions called psychic hygiene, the daily cleansing of mental and emotional residue. But here, it's not mysticism, it's maintenance. Choosing what enters your mental space, choosing what stays, choosing what must go. Your environment matters, your physical space, cluttered or calm. Your digital space, curated or chaotic. Your mental space, reactive or reflective. Every aspect either reinforces your sovereignty or erodes it. This is not about escape. It's about design. You are not just surviving in the world. You are architecting the conditions under which your soul can thrive, because freedom isn't found in rebellion alone. It's found in structure, in boundaries so firm that no parasite can penetrate them. Build the inner fortress, quietly, relentlessly. Because in a world that feeds on openness, discernment is your defense. What happens to a person who never reclaims their energy, who gives and gives and gives, until there is nothing left? Not joy, not will, not even the question of why, just routine, just reaction, just the slow fading of something once bright. Is that exhaustion even yours? Or was it passed down, generation to generation, like a curse no one dared to question? Who are you? When your energy runs out, what parts of you are still alive, and which ones were quietly buried under someone else's expectations? This world will take everything from you, unless you decide right now to stop feeding it. You are not here to be a battery. You are here to burn with your own fire, and somewhere inside you, that flame is still alive, waiting.